Prep test 71, section 3, number 3. When chimpanzees become angry at other chimpanzees, they often engage in what primatologists call threat gestures. That's grunting, spitting, or making abrupt, up-sweeping arm movements. Sounds scary. Chimpanzees also sometimes attack other chimpanzees out of anger. So not only do they do the threat gestures, but they sometimes actually throw down. However, when they do attack, they almost never take time to make threat gestures first. And conversely, threat gestures are rarely followed by physical attacks. I mean, that sounds to me like a sneak attack. Like, if you're going to actually kick someone's ass, you don't want to tell them that you're going to kick their ass and call them names and stuff. Instead, you would just say, hey, look over there, and then punch them, you know? That would make sense to me if it was like something about a sneak attack. Which one of the following, if true, most helps to explain the information about how often threat gestures are accompanied by physical attacks? So, how come sometimes when they get pissed, they do these threat gestures? Other times when they get pissed, they fight, but they rarely do the threat gestures and the fighting at the same time. I'm thinking sneak attack. A. Chimpanzees engage in threat gestures when they are angry in order to preserve or enhance social status. Okay, but that doesn't explain why they don't do these threat gestures when they're going to fight. B. Making threat gestures helps chimpanzees vent aggressive feelings and thereby avoid physical aggression. Okay. I never in a million years would have predicted that as the answer, but when I read it, I go, well, if it's true that making threat gestures helps chimpanzees vent aggressive feelings and thereby avoid physical aggression, then I can see how sometimes when they're pissed, they do threat gestures. But if B is true, then they're probably not going to fight because they're going to vent aggressive feelings and thereby avoid physical aggression. On the other hand, if they didn't do the threat gestures, then they don't vent their aggressive feelings, then they fight. So the answer is going to be B. C. Threat gestures and physical attacks are not the only means by which they display aggression. That does not explain why threat gestures and physical attacks don't happen at the same time. D. Chimpanzees often respond to other chimpanzees' threat gestures with threat gestures of their own. Again, not explaining anything. E. The chimpanzees that most often make threat gestures are the ones that least often initiate physical attacks. Yeah, but why? E, sometimes people will get tempted by E, but all E is doing really is just begging the question. When you read E, you go, yeah, the ones who do the threat gestures the most, like, they never start fighting. And it's like, I know, that's what we're trying to explain, but E doesn't explain anything. E just doubles down on, hey, there's a mystery here. I'm still curious. Why does this happen? E's not actually explaining it. B is explaining it weirdly, like, oh, if they make all these noise and gestures and stuff, then they cool off and then they don't actually have to fight now. So that's an explanation. So the answer here is B.